Turn one soul ring.
It's just one of those things. Just one of those days, you know?
It's just one of those days. So I've been playing Death Shadow in Historic, and it's pretty damn good.
That's right. Anthology 4 just came out?
Yeah, about a week ago now.
So what, because how does that work? Because you can play shock lands, but there aren't any fetch lands, right?
No fetch lands. So you have the shock lands. You do have the MDFC lands that ping you for 3.
Oh, right, the mythics.
If you have them untapped.
Yeah. And those those legendary lands on the land side?
No.
No, okay, so you can play multiples. That's nice. That's actually pretty sweet. I didn't even think of those for Historic Death Shadow, but that works really well, I bet.
Yep, and then like Thoughtseize is in the format.
Oh, yeah.
So that still minuses your life. And then there's a couple other cards that, can minus your life and stuff, and so it's not so bad.
Well,
you get there, and then you got the Scourges as well. Scourge of the Skyclaves is a really strong card.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
And, I had, one game I was like, turn 1, Thoughtseize, turn 2, Dreadhorde Arcanist, turn 3, double Thoughtseize my opponent, and then they're just like, I scoop.
Okay, that sounds really, really fun. That makes me want to play Historic.
Yeah.
Well, all right, everybody. This is Turn 1 Soul Ring. Welcome once again. I'm Kevin.
Hey, I'm Eric.
And I'm Riley.
And today on the show, we're going to be showcasing some of our favorite cards from the Time Spiral Remastered set in the form of a top 10 list. 3 top 10 lists, actually. It's been a while since we visited this style of episode, but we wanted to devote an entire episode to Time Spiral Remastered without doing a set review on a bunch of reprinted cards. So we thought that a top 10 would be a welcome change. But so we have our lists. We're gonna take turns as we normally done. Like I said, we haven't done one of these in quite a while. But Eric also has some set details for us. But before we get to any of that, Eric is going to let us know how listeners can get in touch with us.
Listeners, you can always find us over on Instagram at Turn 1 Soul Ring the podcast. You can also message us directly via email if that's your thing. Turn 1 Soul Ring the podcast at gmail.com. Everything's on YouTube. Best way to find us is to type in Turn 1 Soul Ring the podcast. And if you really like what we're doing here and you want to check out some other stuff, maybe support us, we do have a Patreon page. So you can go check out patreon.com/Turn 1 Soul Ring.
And speaking of Patreon, actually, we have an overdue Patreon shout out. A Mr. Thomas Hatcher. Thank you for your support.
Ooh, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your support and your money. Very, very much appreciated.
Thanks, Tom.
So let's get to those set details. Eric, what do you have for us about Time Spiral Remastered?
So for anyone who's curious about what Time Spiral Remastered really is, this is based off of the Time Spiral block, which originally came out 2006 to 2007. So there's three different sets in there, and it's what was it? Time Spiral, Planar Chaos, and Future Sight. So they've chosen 289 cards from those 3 blocks and put them together into this remastered set. So we have 289 cards from those, and then just like the other, there's something called time shifted cards from then, so they're doing that again. And so there's 121 more time shifted cards, and these are going to be cards printed from like anything that's outside of the block, and they've given it an old border.
Right.
Yeah.
But with original, with original Time Spiral, they time shifted cards that were from the pre-modern era, and they brought them into the modern era. And so a lot of cards ended up being legal in modern that weren't previously legal in modern. At the time, modern didn't exist. But with this set, we're just getting cards that were already legal in those sets, and they're just giving them an old border. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you are correct. Thank you for that, Kevin.
Yeah.
And then, in the set, there's also a bunch of cycles of things they did, and so it's a cool set. You can go check it out on the interwebs.
Yeah, and like Planar Chaos gave us a lot of... Planar Chaos is actually a really great set from a commander perspective, because if you have a monocolor deck, I've found a lot of cards from the Planar Chaos set where I need an effect outside of what's normally in that slice of the color pie. And if you're looking for an effect like that, like a bounce effect in red, or what's
Harmonized, maybe.
like great example of
Yeah.
just a straight up card draw effect in green that has nothing to do with the amount of creatures you have. Go check out Planar Chaos, because you can find some real gems in that set. I guess we can just get straight to the lists. I will kick things off here
Whoop, whoop.
with Mana Tithe is my number 10. Mana Tithe.
Hey.
It is 1 white mana for an instant. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 1. So this card is originally from Planar Chaos. It was a time-shifted card. So, I've always really liked this card. I've only played it in more... I'll say more like competitive type of commander games. It's not really like CEDH, but I just love it because it gives white an effect that it doesn't normally have. There are some other white counterspells, like Rebuff the Wicked is one of them, I believe. But this is just kind of a no questions asked counterspell, assuming your opponent can't pay the 1 mana for it. So it's just nice to see white get a little one of the worst colors get an effect that one of the best colors has.
Yeah, it's just a color shifted version of Force Spike.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Getting people with Mana Tithe is always really fun. It's like, oh, that 1 mana that I completely tapped out for, and you just get them.
Oh yeah, especially a big X spell. It's like, yeah, I'll throw the last mana into X. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what's the worst they could have? Like a Swords to Plowshares? No, Mana Tithe.
Boom, got him. So for my number 10, I chose one of the big titans that has really fallen from where it used to be. And this card is called Tarmogoyf. So it's one of anything in a green for a star and then 1+ star. So Tarmogoyf's power is equal to the number of card types among cards in all graveyards, and its toughness is equal to that number plus 1. So Tarmogoyf was a big staple in Standard. Canadian prices was like reaching almost $200.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And now with this reprint, he's down to $35.40 like Canadian.
Oh yeah, he's the cheapest he's been in a long time. Never really made a comeback after, was it Masters 25 the last time it was printed?
Oh, I don't remember the last printing.
Ultimate Masters.
Yeah.
And it hasn't really come back from that reprinting, because it was, when I got into Modern a few, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, it was still closer to $100 card. So it's a great time to build Jund.
Yeah, and the another big thing was because there was better removal being printed. The first of this was Fatal Push, is really what started having the Tarmogoyf's price go down as well. Because now we have another removal spell, but now it's just 1 black, so there's more colors that are able to just like get rid of the creature and stuff. So
yeah. And Tarmogoyf is also one of those cards that was like a last minute change before it went to the printer. It didn't have the +1 to toughness, and they gave it that +1 because they didn't think it was. I don't know if they didn't think it was quite playable, or they didn't think it was it was quite there, but that definitely pushed it over the line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because now you're able to play it no matter what. And then of course when we have formats like Modern, sometimes on turn like 2 or 3, you're like, oh, I got a 4/5 or a 5/6. What's up?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Next up, number 10 on my list, Flagstones of Trocaire. So this is a legendary land, taps for a white, and when Flagstones of Trocaire is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may search your library for a Plains card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and shuffle your library. So I like Flagstones in any kind of deck that either cares about sacrificing its own lands for value, or some sort of lands deck that touches white. It's just a fun little card that your opponent never wants to strip mine.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also great with like Armageddon, if you Geddon and you still get a Plains out of it, so that's nice. And it's a Plains card, so you can go get a duel if you're so inclined.
Yeah, exactly. I thought Kevin would like that.
Very much so. Yes, yes. Yeah, per our recent what was it? It was Stoic something.
Stoic farmer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was yeah, I did get a little heated about that, but it's all good. It's easy to criticize the cards when you're not the talent behind the cards, and I'm certainly not that. Okay, moving on to number 9. My number 9 is a red card. Let me just find it here. Hopefully I spelt it right. I did. It's Greater Gargadon. So it's 9 and a red for a 9/7 beast. It has suspend 10, and you suspend it for 1 red. You can sacrifice an artifact, creature, or land. Remove a time counter from Greater Gargadon. Activate this ability only if Greater Gargadon is suspended. So, I'm always talking about how powerful free sacrifice outlets are in our commander decks, and that's what this is. And this doesn't even need to be in a deck that really wants to utilize a sack outlet. It can just be in a very creature heavy deck and can sort of get some value off of your board being removed. So if you are piloting a deck like that, and a board wipe gets cast, you can just sacrifice not all the creatures, but don't sacrifice the last one. Leave the last time counter on, because if you sacrifice it, all your creatures to take all the time counters off, Greater Gargadon's going to come into the battlefield and then die from the board wipe. So you don't want that, but you can kind of start your next turn already rebuilding with a 9/7 beefy beast. So it's just I think it's a pretty underplayed card, and it is just a nice way to it's just a nice bit of extra value and a free sacrifice outlet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a pretty resilient sacrifice outlet too, right? It's hard for your opponents to interact with it. Not too many players are running effects that mess with time counters or things like that.
Yeah,
yeah.
Remove a time counter from target suspended card.
Exactly. Or add counters on a suspended card.
Yeah. Well, does an effect like Proliferate, you can't, because the suspended card is an exile, you can't interact with it that way, right?
I don't think so. I think Proliferate only cares about players and permanents.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can interact with.
It's not a permanent.
All right. Yeah. I'll cross it off the list of things I need to watch out for.
Yeah. But like if you want to run like a sacrifice deck that cares about stealing your opponent's creatures and sacrificing it for value, like it's a cheap way to set something like that up.
Yeah, I mean, you won't have a lot of friends after, but do what you got to do, right? I mean, we're still playing Magic together, so maybe you will.
Yeah, something's working.
Yeah, you know what? It's communication. It's too much communication.
There you go. So this worked quite well because I kind of cheated on my number 9, and I have 2 cards.
Oh boy!
Just because they work so well together.
Okay.
One of them is Greater Gargadon, which you just talked about.
Yeah.
The other one is Restore Balance. So you can only suspend this card for 1 white, and it's a 6. Each player chooses a number of lands they control equal to the number of lands controlled by the player who controls the fewest, then sacrifices the rest. Players sacrifice creatures, discards cards the same way. So, we suspend the Greater Gargadon, and then we get rid of everything on our board, and then Restore Balance goes off. And, everyone goes down to what we have.
Why are you like this?
That's pretty sweet. Is balance is banned, right?
Yes.
True balance is
True balance is banned. Yeah. So
it's too much power.
Obviously, the best way, there are ways to cheat out Restore Balance because you can cascade into it and things like that. So if it's the only 0 mana cost in your deck, you can do things like that. So just watching like fun modern stuff even, you can do a Greater Gargadon Restore Balance plan. It's not the best that works, but it's still pretty funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it would definitely be a lot of fun. No kidding.
Yeah.
All right, number 9 on my list, I've got Dryad Arbor. So Dryad Arbor is another land, but it's also a creature. It's a forest dryad. It's a 1/1. And it's basically played like a land, so it's not actually a spell. It's got reminder text there to let you know that it's got summoning sickness as well, because it has characteristics of a creature. But the nice thing about Dryad Arbor is it pairs really nicely with Green Sun's Zenith. So on turn 1, if you have a Green Sun Zenith in your hand, you can just put 1 mana into it for X equals 0 and get your Dryad Arbor to get some early ramp in the game. And then, of course, reshuffle Green Sun Zenith into your library.
That feels really good. I've done it many times, and it never... And nobody really minds. Like, it's not a huge power play because it is a pretty fragile land because it's also a creature, and it sucks when it becomes the victim of a board wipe, because most people don't remove it with targeted removal. But it's just one of those feel good moments in Commander. It just I never tire of it.
Yeah, great card, and it's been one that you don't see too often because the price tag historically has been creeping up. So it's really nice to see a reprint, and that's true of a lot of the cards in our list, of course, because this is a reprint based set. So the prices are coming down.
Yeah, it's $682 USD on the old Scryfall, so looking good.
There you go.
Yeah. Also, Dryad Arbor is upshifted from uncommon to rare.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It wasn't uncommon. It's like a $30 uncommon. Like back when, not when I bought it, but like it was before the list reprint. It was really creeping up because it was just Future Sight and From the Vault. And I mean, I'm in the minority. I kind of like the foiling on From the Vault cards, but if I had to pick, I'm going with the OG Future Sight border.
Nice.
I don't even want to. What is the foil price on that? Let's check. I think my internet's like, I'm trying.
Probably all those tabs you have open.
A foil and TCG player is going for about $94.
There you go. Yeah. Boom. Got him.
Crazy.
Wow. I wish I had one. Okay, let's move on to number 8. I have Wipe Away is my number 8.
Ooh, I like this card a lot.
So Wipe Away is 1 blue for an instant. It has split second. So I'll just read that because I have another split second card on my list. As long as the spell is on the stack, players can't cast spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. And you get to return target permanent to its owner's hand. I love split second. I know I'm not special in that affection among the hosts of this show, but any card with split second, it's always great. One of my favorite cards is Crows and Grip, but this is also a great removal spell. And again, it kind of like Mana Tithe, what I was talking about in more competitive builds. I like it more there. I've run this in my Narset deck from day one, and I think that's probably the most competitive deck that I have. And it does have more of it has a steeper mana cost for this type of effect, like what we're used to seeing on a blue card that bounces a permanent. It's usually less than 3 mana, but this, I feel the split second more than makes up for it, and it also hits permanence. So this has definitely got me out of some sticky situations where, whether I wasn't able to attack with Narset or whether I could only cast one spell a turn, some kind of stacks effect, and I just needed to bounce a permanent so that I could continue with my endless turns and win the game that way. So I would give all split second cards a second look when you're building a deck, but this card has definitely overperformed for me.
Yeah, definitely if you have some sort of deck that is looking to just like combo in that sort of way and there's somebody stopping at the table, this is great for that because you just can't respond to it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I also had this card when I was playing Modern in a couple sideboards as well, just because, like, again, you can't answer to this. You can get rid of something off the board for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's good stuff.
It feels really good. Yeah, the double blue pips. It can be a little expensive in a 3-color deck, but it's definitely worth it. The proof is in the experience. I don't know what they say.
Pudding.
Pudding?
Proof is in the pudding.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the few ways you can interact with Split Second is doing like a special action, which would be something like unmorphing or morphing a creature, I should say.
Right.
So like a morph creature that can counter a spell is one way that you can interact with a Split Second card, but of course those are few and far between. So
Yes. Yeah.
for the most
Yeah,
part, you're safe.
And the hosts of the show are all too familiar with morph special actions. Yeah, or it's also I think important to mention cards like Astronaut's Altar or Phyrexian Altar, where that is actually that sacrifice effect is actually a mana ability. So if the permanent is a creature, you can actually respond. You could respond by sacrificing it, and using that mana ability on either of those two artifacts.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so coming up, number 8, I have a little known card called Grape Shot.
Nice.
It's one of anything in red, and it's a sorcery. Grape Shot deals 1 damage to any target for 2 mana. Woo! Right,
and
it has
and it's a sorcery.
But wait, right, it has Storm. When you cast the spell, copy it for each spell cast before it this turn. You may choose 2 targets for the copies. There's a spot in my heart for Storm. I do like it. I did have a Storm modern deck, which I played mostly just by myself. I took it out a couple times, but I know it's not fun to play against. But I think it's still like a really fun deck to just play with.
Yeah, it's good for it is good for like solitaire style Magic. But sorry Riley, I cut you off.
Well, I was gonna say like Storm is the best deck that you could possibly goldfish by yourself. So
yeah,
I know that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely died to this card quite a few times.
Yeah, and I kind of I've gone against Storm players, and then if you know the deck. And you do have counter spells. It's what spot am I going to wait for to try and counter my opponent's spell so that they can't storm off and stuff. So if you do have an interactive deck, playing against Storm can be kind of fun because then it's when do I try and go for the Storm kill if I know my opponent has counter spells, and what do I have to try and counter so make sure they don't go off and stuff. So it does have that kind of little play with it. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, number 8 on my list, tried and true, Damnation.
Hey.
So, Damnation is 2 black for a sorcery. Destroy all creatures that can't be regenerated. Just a classic board wipe. And it's awesome to get a reprint, even at Mythic, unfortunately. But even at Mythic, the price is basically half of where it was before the set. So hopefully it creeps down a little bit more.
Yes, and another time-shifted card, a time-shifted version of Wrath of God.
Exactly.
Yeah, so giving black that Wrath of God is really, really nice. Big fan of this. Obviously, because if we're not in those colors, this is a really nice, just 4 mana just to wipe the board. Huge fan of the Damnation.
Yeah, no, the best board wipes are 4 mana, unless we're talking about Toxic Deluge or the new Doomscar, which is kind of a 3 mana board wipe if you foretell it. Yeah, or a turn 3 board wipe it can be if you foretell it. But who's going off that soon?
I think my personal favorite board wipe has got to be Last One Standing. That's the 1 black red. You choose a creature at random and destroy the rest.
Yeah, I run that at Zancha because I hope that she survives.
Yeah, exactly. It's so good. Every time I cast it, it's oh sure, a random token survives and the rest of the board is gone for 3 mana.
Yeah,
it's pretty
it
great.
Is. Yeah, it is really great. Yeah, that's a battle bond card, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to number 7. My number 7 is Ancestral Vision. It is a sorcery, and you can only suspend it for 1 blue. It has suspend 4. Target player draws 3 cards. So, this is in here more. This is on my list more for the financial side of things. I've played with this card a little bit. It is a good card. It is like a really, really crappy version of Ancestral Recall. That being said, it's still a good card. But this card I feel was very, very overpriced for a very long time. It was like $55 at one point, and it got a reprint in Iconic Masters, and that brought the price down quite a bit. But with Time Spiral Remastered, this card is under $5, and for a great card like this that has a lot of potential, obviously because it was so expensive, it's just nice to see it accessible to pretty much every player. I think most players wouldn't have a problem spending, $5 on a card here and there.
Yeah, actually, I was gonna, since you brought this card up, I was gonna touch upon the pricing, because there was a time when this card was about $15. The reason it spiked so much was because it was unbanned in Modern, and then the price just went way up.
Right, because it was just printed in the original Time Spiral, and then in the Jace Chandra dual decks, the ones that were, I think they did like a Japanese one and then a regular one. But even those dual decks, like for the longest time, if you just wanted to buy those decks, they were ridiculously expensive. But I guess that was back when they were putting like good cards in dual decks.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that it was banned in Modern at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember because there was my very first Modern tournament that I went to was around when this card was unbanned, and I was getting played against a lot, and I was like, ugh.
So were people like cascading into it?
No, like turn 1 Ancestral Vision, turn 2 Ancestral Vision, and then like turn 5, turn 6, draw 3.
Yeah, that's a lot of gas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Okay, just the good old fashioned suspend. Just wait for it.
Yeah.
Good old fashioned draw 3.
Yeah, just great to see.
Yeah, good old fashioned.
And it does, and I think because it is that version of, a part of the Power 9, it's it just feels really cool to have a card like that, even though it's obviously not the same card, but it is it's sort of a facsimile of it.
Yeah, and I'm also really glad that they obviously use the older art for this.
Yeah, which is sort of, it is more in line with the original Ancestral Recall art rather than the strange the route they took with Iconic Masters. But
yeah,
it's Iconic Masters. What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
it's iconic. Come on.
Oh, it's actually John Avon did the art for the Iconic Masters. Interesting.
Oh yeah, he just turned 60.
Oh wow.
The other day I saw him blowing out some candles on Instagram.
Oh, happy birthday, John Avon.
Happy birthday, Mr. Avon.
He's looking good. He's trim. It's
good to hear. My number 7 is a land, Vesuva. So you may have Vesuva enter the battlefield tapped as a copy of any land on the battlefield. So we're able to copy our own lands. We're able to copy our opponent's lands. If someone has something spicy, you can definitely make it a copy of that. The most classic spicy play with Vesuva is if you have a Dark Depths, which has 10 ice counters on it. If you make a copy of it, you don't have the ice counters on it. You can sack it right away and get that big 2020 Merit Lage token.
Yeah, it's like Legacy Lands, right?
Yeah.
The same thing with like you can also do it with Thespian Stage.
Mm-hmm. Thespian Stage as well, yeah.
Yeah. This is a great card. I run this in a couple of decks, and I always talk about how I don't like enter the battlefield tap lands, but when you have this kind of flexibility, I don't care.
Yeah, it's a powerful effect.
Oh yeah, definitely. Copy somebody's, some kind of legendary land that's just doing a ton of work for them. It's great. Or just, sometimes I've copied snow-covered islands with this card. Sometimes you just need blue.
All right, number 7 on my list is Edge of Autumn, which is 1 and a green for a sorcery. If you control 4 or fewer lands, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. And it has cycling, which requires you to sacrifice a land. Edge of Autumn, I know we've talked about it in past decks, pairs really well with Flagstones if you're interested in a little combo there. But any kind of lands deck, like Get Rock Monster comes to mind. Early in the game, you're ramping. Later in the game, you have sacrifice to cycle. So yeah, really, really cool card. Wasn't too expensive. I think it was only around a couple bucks prior to the reprint, but now it's under $1 US. So just a fun card.
Oh yeah, yeah, very very solid card in Gitrog. Love it. That's how I discovered this card was doing research for that
It's
deck.
definitely a really good lands deck or lands card.
Moving on to number 6, or Sace as we say it in Canada.
Nobody says it like that.
Well, Riley, I'm Canadian, so somebody says it like that.
Oh boy.
My number 6 is Simian Spirit Guide. It's 2 and a red for a 2/2 ape spirit. You exile it from your hand and you add 1 red to your mana pool. I like the alternate art. I'm a big fan of the most alternate borders that they've done in the history of Magic. I think there's only maybe 1 or 2 that I really haven't liked, like the what were they called? What were the lottery cards called in Amonkhet Hour?
Invocation.
Yes. I didn't like those. But as much as I like the new art on this, I really prefer the original art on Simian Spirit Guide, and I love just that solid color planar chaos time shifted border. But enough about that. The card itself, this is another color shifted card. It is a color shifted version of Elvish Spirit Guide, which does the same thing, except it adds a green to your mana pool. And going back to my Narset deck again, I put this into my Narset deck, and I wasn't totally sold on it at first because it was like a whole card for mana. And this is kind of when I started to play. I started to be more interested in more competitive play, and so I wasn't really sold on this. But the first time it let me cast a turn 1 Narset, I was like, this card is amazing. I'm hooked. And since then I've put this card or its green counterpart in any of my decks that can really utilize it. Like Elvish Spirit Guide will let me cast a turn 1 or turn 2 Yison pretty often. It's pretty reliable. But this is that kind of effect is just incredibly powerful when you have like that low cost commander, or you have the commander that you want to cast as early as possible. It was also good in Modern, which is why it was recently banned. But I never had a chance to use it in that format. But just love that effect. It's very powerful, that 1 mana boost. It doesn't seem like much to the uninitiated, but it is very powerful.
This is a very powerful card. We're talking about Modern. Something for you, Riley. Definitely gone against people who are like, oh, I cast a turn 1 Blood Moon.
Oh yeah,
it's
that's
like,
oof.
Yeah, it's
yeah, that's rough.
My number 6 is a nice card. It's called Heartwood Storyteller. So it's 1 of anything and 2 green for a 2/3. Whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, each of the player's opponents may draw a card. I had like just like a friendly deck.
Group hug.
Group hug, thank you. And this is a great group hug card. And I know like the price was like above, like it was getting close to like $30 Canadian, which is crazy. So the reprint is really nice for this card. So if anyone has like a group hug deck out there, now's the time to get this card. It's really great for that kind of strategy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is a May ability, so that's nice.
Yeah, they don't. You're, cool. Yeah, that person doesn't have to draw a card if they don't want to. Which why?
Generally speaking, yeah. Why?
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe they're just staring at their phone during your turn, and people
Maybe.
are casting spells and they're not.
They don't notice.
Attention.
Yeah.
There you go.
That happens.
And then when they ask you if it was a May ability, you say yes, and then they're like sad because they don't get to draw cards retroactively.
Exactly. All right, my number 6 is Sudden Spoiling. So 1 black for an instant. It has split second, and it says until end of turn, creatures target player controls lose all abilities and have base power and toughness 0/2.
So, love a good polymorph effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, it's till end of turn, but you can really mess up somebody's combat.
Yeah, and on top of messing up combat, also if somebody has some like really sticky board situation, if they've given like all their creatures indestructible or something like that, you can use this in tandem with another card to just like get rid of their stuff. So
yeah, like certain board wipes. You can definitely do that. Or you can also, in addition to those two things, you can also stop a player from comboing off. By like, the creatures lose all their abilities, and then maybe you have another turn, or if you have a way to remove everything, then you've saved yourself a few turns potentially.
Yeah, or if Kevin plays Narset.
There you go. Got him.
Yeah, this card is really, really versatile. I think it's my favorite. Like, I don't run it as often as I would like Crosand Grip, but I think it's still my favorite of the split second cards.
Yeah, just that kind of effect. Like, it's not. I wouldn't say it's rare in Magic, that polymorph effect, but it's definitely something that you're hard pressed to find anywhere else in mono black. So it is nice if you need that effect. It's more commonly a blue effect, but it can just give you that one more turn that you need to win.
Yeah.
Love sudden spoiling. Okay, we're halfway there. We're living on a prayer. So my number five is Walk the Aeons. It's 4 blue for a sorcery. It has buyback, and you sacrifice 3 islands. And I'll read buyback just in case. You may sacrifice 3 islands in addition to any other costs as you cast the spell. If you do, put this card into your hand as it resolves, and you get to take an extra turn after this one. Much like Split Second, buyback is one of my all-time favorite mechanics, especially when the buyback cost is just paying mana. Those ones are really great. But it seems like sacrificing 3 islands is a lot, but the decks that you can either cheat the mana cost of this spell or other spells, or easily bring lands back from the yard, are where this card really shines. And even if it's not in one of those decks, again, like I was saying about sudden spoiling, sometimes you just need that extra turn and just to win the game. Plus, a little cherry on top for this card, much like the older extra turn spells in Magic's history, it doesn't exile itself. So you can bring it back from the graveyard, if at the time you can't buy it back, and hopefully you can like Archaeomancer it back to your hand, or what's that wall, mnemonic wall, that kind of thing. So that little extra is nice. But I've bought this card back, and it costs a lot, but it's worth it. Extra turn spells, they'll win you games, let me tell you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this one is really nice for the not getting exiled thing. You can do a lot of stuff with that. And then it's like the buyback, sacrificing 3 islands. It's obviously, if you have it in a deck where that works really well, it's easy for you to do, but also that is kind of like a big cost to pay as well for the buyback. So I don't think it's a like easy thing to like abuse or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. I think it's a pretty balanced card overall.
It's pretty funny because like when I was putting together my list, I had like a list of like 40 cards, right, to start off with, until I started whittling it down. And I was looking at cards, and I'm like, Kevin will probably pick this one. So
that's great.
So there's a couple that came to mind, and this was one of them. I was like, this is a very Kevin card.
Yeah. No, I definitely had that thought about the two of you when I was putting my list together. I'm like, you know what? I don't have to put that on. It's sort of like when we do set reviews, and I'm like, I don't really need to put this card on because one of them will.
Yeah. Just save myself the time.
So my number 5, Riley, is sudden spoiling.
Nice. There you go. So a little bit of overlap.
We just talked about it. So yeah.
Good card.
I think we've said everything we need to say about it. It is a good card. It's cheaper than it's ever been. They didn't change the art. Loving it.
Good art. Good
art.
All right. Well, my number 5 is Delay, which is 1 and a blue for an instant. It says counter target spell. If a spell is countered this way, exile it with 3 time counters on it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. And if it doesn't have suspend, it gains suspend.
Oh, this card is surprisingly valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. So the reprint's been nice to bring the cost down. I know it was in mystery boosters as part of the list, or I guess the foil sheet in mystery boosters.
Right.
So that was the last time it was reprinted, but Delay's just an awesome card if you really want to mess up somebody's plan. Like, so if somebody's comboing off and a key piece is being cast and you have a delay, it's really going to throw off their plan. Or if somebody, like plays a mana flare into a Torment of Hailfire for like X equals 30.
Yeah, it's great with X spells.
Yeah. Then, like in 3 turns, it's just going to be X0. So Delays.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah, very, very fun card and a very easy to cast card as far as like if you're playing like a 2 or 3 color deck that has blue.
Yeah, and it's I love the new art on it. I love the old art as well, but yeah, love the new art. But yeah, this is like a very underplayed counterspell. I put it in most of my blue decks because, just for every reason that you just outlined, but it's like 3 turns is a long time, and that can give you time to get back in the game. That can give you time to win. This is a very, very powerful card.
Yeah, I actually totally forgot about this card. Super good counterspell. I love it.
Yeah. Very, very underplayed. Okay, so we're moving on to number 4. Okay, so my number 4 is a sliver. Did I spell that right? It's just that like E at the end, It's like, what? It's like doesn't sound. I was one of those like had to get extra tutoring to yeah, I'm going to embarrass myself. I'm not going to get into it. So my number 4 is Homing Sliver. So it's 2 and a red for a 2/2 sliver. Each sliver card in each player's hand has sliver cycling for 3. And sliver cycling is you pay 3, discard this card, search your library for a sliver card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So this has been in my Sliver Commander deck since its inception, and there are a ton of great slivers in this set, but this one made my number 4 because it can get any sliver, and in a deck where you're running 30 to 35 slivers, like my Commander deck, you can tutor up a key piece of the combo or any other tool that you need out of the toolbox. Interestingly, though, I found that when playing this card in the deck that I talk about frequently on this show, I rarely discard other slivers while this is in my hand. So I'll use it as kind of a one-shot sliver tutor, but I don't find myself like I'm trying to think. I don't know if I've ever discarded another sliver to this ability to tutor up a sliver. I think maybe because it's a singleton format, and it's just like every sliver counts and every sliver has a specific function, and this sliver's function is to tutor up a piece that I need. But I could see it in a deck where you have multiples of slivers where you can sort of do this, like I wouldn't mind sliver cycling a metallic sliver away, or like a plated sliver away to get this effect. But just a really great card, and a card that when I've seen other people piloting sliver decks, I don't think I've ever seen it on the other side of the table. That's not to say it wasn't in their decks, of course.
Yeah, it's a sliver tutor. It's great for those sliver decks. This is a sweet card.
Oh yeah.
Talking number 4s. It's got buyback. My next card is Reiterate. So it's 1 of anything and 2 red. The buyback cost is 3 mana. You can copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy.
Wow, I must have given this one a miss. I didn't even know this was in the set. This is great.
Yeah, Reiterate's a great card. The first time I found out about it was my first Commander deck, Mizzix of the Ismagus, and being able to get the cost down on cards made this like a key combo piece for that deck.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
So, but with Mizik's the experience counter things, each counter reduces the cost of instants and sorceries by 1. Is that right?
Yeah, and then buyback is like additional to it, so you can use the experience counters towards the buyback.
Oh, that's greasy. That makes me want to build a deck around that commander.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely pretty greasy because then you're just like, oh, you can like infinitely make mana so easily.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, another card I'm surprised at the price of, but yeah, I guess it's only been printed once. I wonder what it was before this was spoiled, because the original version is still sitting at about $14.
Yeah, like this is definitely a card that over time was really creeping up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been getting pretty pricey. It's also another card you can use to copy a Torment of Hailfire that's on the stack.
That's right.
Oh, lovely.
And
So-
save that delay. You're gonna need it.
There you go. All right, next card on my list is a classic. It's Pongify.
Hey.
Pongify is blue for an instant. Destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated, and its controller creates a 3/3 green ape creature token. Just an efficient removal spell for blue. For some reason, blue has access to destroy effects.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's planar chaos, so anything can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great card. Its counterpart, Rapid Hybridization, is another great card. I think has been printed less because this was just reprinted in Double Masters, and then we're getting it again. So it's very affordable now. But yeah, both these cards, if you're building the blue deck, especially of the mono variety, check these out. You're gonna need them.
Yeah, it's definitely a card we've talked about a lot on this show as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and I think it even made it into our Verisol deck build.
I think so.
I think so, because we couldn't put Rapid Hybridization in because it brought the overall price too high. So we went with the cheaper option. It's essentially the same card. Okay, so my number 3 is. Would you believe it? It's Sudden Spoiling. So we can just skip on past that. And
wow,
so
all of us.
All of us. This is a great card. It's a great card. That says a lot about us as deck builders. So, or maybe it just says that we play Magic together in kind of a vacuum because there's been a pandemic going on. I'm not sure what it says, but it's a great card.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever had a card hit all this before. That's really cool.
Yeah, we did it.
And it slowly crept up as well.
Yes, it did. It slowly got better. Yeah.
Yeah. So my number 3 is a card called Reality Acid. So it's 2 of anything and a blue for an enchantment aura. You enchant permanent, and then it has Vanishing 3. So this aura enters the battlefield with 3 time counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove a time counter from it. When the last counter is removed, you sacrifice it. And when Reality Acid leaves the battlefield, enchanted permanent controller sacrifices it. I really like this card because you can abuse it by blinking Reality Acid itself. Because once Reality Acid leaves the battlefield, you sacrifice the permanent, Reality Acid comes back, and you can attach it to something else. Being able to just sacrificing your opponent's permanents. You can even hit lands if you really want to. Like,
yeah, you can. This was a mainstay in my Brago deck back in the day, and it's a great card. It's very powerful, but I always felt bad blinking it. But yeah, because you can just like get to a point where you have to start enchanting your permanents, but by the time that happens, you know, your opponent should have conceded.
Or I think you should have been able to win the game somehow as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, probably. Well, the interesting thing about blinking it, like if you're using Brago to blink it, is when it is coming back onto the battlefield, all it has to do is enchant like a permanent that it can enchant. So it doesn't actually use the stack, so it doesn't target. So you can get around Shroud and Hexproof.
Yeah.
Which is the same kind of interaction as if you're bringing it back from the graveyard onto the battlefield.
Good to know.
Yeah. So
Good
secret
to know.
tech there.
Yeah,
Yeah, secret tech. That
it's been a while since I've piloted that deck. I mean, I don't even have it together anymore, but it's I wish someone had told me that back then.
Yeah.
that's why Zur the Enchanter is such a popular commander, because of his ability. Any auras they don't have, they can just come onto the battlefield, so you don't have to target something. So again, gets around Hexproof and Shroud.
Yeah. Zur's a pretty powerful card.
Yeah.
All right. Next up on my list, my number 3 here is Keen Sense. So green for an enchantment aura. It says enchant creature, and whenever enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. So just a green shifted curiosity. The reason I like Keen Sense is it works really well with effects like Halar or Slimefoot the Stowaway. Basically, commanders that deal a damage to each opponent. So every time you're triggering Halar or triggering Slimefoot, you're drawing 3 cards, assuming you're playing with a pot of 4 people. So really good value engine, and surprisingly, like not totally expensive card. I think it was over $5 US prior to the reprinting. So just like curiosity is bulk prices, and Keen Sense is not
cheap.
Yeah.
I also like the story spotlight of this card, because like Planar Chaos is like the story of that set is that it's an alternate universe. So like this like what's happening in the art here is, this is sort of part of what happens at the end of the next book we're going to cover, starting next week, Wrath and Storm. At the end of it, this is like what's being depicted here is like the opposite of what it's kind of the opposite of what actually happens. But that whole set, the story behind that whole set is really cool. But again, that's something we'll cover in the distant future. So moving on to number 2, again, I have a repeat here. My number 2 is Delay, for all the reasons that we already talked about. Just a great card, and I feel a very underplayed card. So hopefully this reprint and will get it out there more, because it's a solid, easy to cast counter spell.
That can be cast in Commander.
Very much so. Yeah.
I said I was a big fan of it before. My number 2 is Damnation.
Nice.
Yeah, so more repeats here, but again, because just Damnation, like 4 mana wraths, so good. I will also say there's a pretty cool Magic Player Awards full art of Damnation.
Yeah.
So if you're interested, go check out that art.
I like your art.
Check out that art. All right, my number 2 is Gauntlet of Power. It's 5 mana for an artifact. It says, as Gauntlet of Power enters the battlefield, choose a color. Creatures of the chosen color get +1/+1. And whenever a basic land is tapped for mana of the chosen color, its controller adds an additional 1 mana of that color. So notably, this is affecting the whole table, assuming they care about that color. But Gauntlet of Power, great in monocolored decks, great in decks that care about, like Mirari's Wake effects, because it's basically a Mirari's Wake effect that can fit into any color.
Yeah, it's like a it's not really the poor man's Cage Sun, because Cage Sun has always been a cheaper card.
Yeah.
But I kind of, for the 1 extra mana, I kind of like Cage Sun more, because it only affects your stuff. Yeah, Gauntlet of Power definitely needed a reprint bad.
Yeah. Bad.
Okay, my number 1, we're in the home stretch here, or maybe top 3 is the home stretch, but my number 1 is Sliver Legion. Let's see here. It is Wooburg, so it's white, blue, black, red, green for a 7/7 legendary sliver, so it can be your commander. All sliver creatures get +1/+1 for each other sliver on the battlefield. So it's a like a coat of arms type effect. And back in the day, when I first built my first commander deck, Slivers, this was basically my win con. so long before I started doing the Sliver Queen combo, I just killed everybody with combat damage. So I had like the buff, the slivers that like gave buffs, like Muscle Sliver and Predatory Sliver, and Sinew Sliver, which is getting reprint in the set. Um, I'd build up a board. I'd slam this guy down, and I was able to just steamroll people. I usually had some kind of evasive ability like flying or trample, and yeah, that's how I won. I love this card. For the longest time I thought it was just the best sliver. I love the art. It's sort of just like a mass of slivers. They almost look like clay. But yeah, this is a card that desperately needed a reprint. Even with the Time Spiral Remastered print, it's still sitting at about $42 and change. But yeah, this is just a great card. Very expensive, needs a reprint, kind of needs another reprint at this price, but we'll see what happens. I'm definitely looking for, we've seen sliver reprints a little bit over the past few months in a couple of sets, and with Modern Horizons 2 coming out, I don't know if we're going to get more slivers in that set. I hope so. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to going out and playing Paper Magic in the wild again and seeing more sliver decks. So yeah, just one of a card that's very close to my heart.
Well, my number one doesn't cost any mana.
Oh boy, okay.
It's Pact of Negation.
Ooh, that was on my short list.
Yeah, I was thinking you might have picked it as well, Kevin, but I was like, this card is just so damn good. It's got to be my number one. So, Pact of Negation is an instant for 0 mana to counter target spell. At the beginning of your next upkeep, pay 3 blue. If you don't, you lose the game. But basically, if you have a deck and you're trying to go off, someone is trying to counter you, if you are going to be winning that turn anyways, we don't have to worry about the second clause of Pact of Negation, and we can just cast it anyways and keep on going. Or if you are in a weird situation where maybe you tapped down just to get some nice board presence and somebody's playing a game-winning piece, you can Pact of Negation and then still pay for it on your next upkeep, so that person doesn't end up just winning the game right there and you still have a chance to get there.
Yeah, love a 0 mana counterspell. Between this and Force of Will, I would say run both if you have access to them. Or if you have a printer, then you always have access to any card, but let's keep that on the hush-hush. Riley doesn't like when I talk about proxies. But yeah, I love this card. It definitely made my short list, and I had a feeling someone else would put it on their list, but yeah, like you said, Eric, a lot of times you just don't even have to worry about that second clause because you're going to win.
Yep.
Bing, bang, boom. All right. Well, I bet neither of you would be able to guess what my number one is.
Is it is it the functional reprint of Living Death?
No. No, it is Utopia Mycon. It's green for a fungus. It's a 0/2. And it says at the beginning of your upkeep, put a spore counter on Utopia Mycon. You can remove 3 spore counters from Utopia Mycon to create a Saproling token. Or you can sacrifice a Saproling to add 1 mana of any color.
Is this your number one just because of all the hoops?
No, it's my number one because it inspired me to want to rebuild my Slimefoot the Stowaway deck.
Oh, that's good.
And this is a fantastic game piece for that deck because it's a free sacrifice outlet for your Saprolings.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, yeah.
And it's a mana ability too. So there you go.
Boom, boom.
There you go.
All the split second in the deck, there's still Saprolings.
Yeah, it is a lot of value for 1 mana, and yeah, this is a cool card.
I was kind of hoping I think there's a card called it's like Psychontrope Thallid or something like that. It's like 2 and a green for a Thallid that has the same fungus abilities like this one does, but you can pay 1 and sacrifice a Saproling to draw a card, and that one is like still I think between $5 and $10 US.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's $405 US.
Oh, there you go.
All right, everybody. Well, those are our lists. We kind of burned through it a little bit at the end because I had some repeats. We all had some. We doubled up a little bit, but that'll happen when we keep our lists secret, which we always do. But we're gonna bring this episode to a close. Let us know if any of the cards in this set that you're interested in. Send us a top 10 list with why the cards are where they are. I'd love to read it.
Yeah.
And you can do that in the comments below, or by DMing us on Instagram, or send us an email, or wherever else there is any way to get in touch with us. Thank you for listening, as always, and we'll be back next week to continue our lore series. We're going to get into Wrath and Storm.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you find that these list episodes are fun.
Yeah, let us know if you like this kind of content, because we'll do more of it. I'm not exactly sure why we moved away from it, but it feels like every other, it feels like we're doing a set review like once a month, and God bless us, we can't do it in one episode, so it's like 2 or 3 weeks of set reviews, and that's that's half a month right there of content. So just it feels like they're throwing a lot of new product at us. It's good because it makes for we don't have to think too hard about making that content, but it sort of leaves some topics by the wayside. So
yeah.
Anyways, well, thank you for listening again, and like we said, we'll be back next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye now.
Thalids.
Turn one soul ring.